Could you create an Avengers thumbnail so I can get some ideas for my channel? Thanks, man. If you want me to create a certain thumbnail for you, drop a comment and I'll try and get back to you because I have so many comments.
Wrong.
While you're there, like and subscribe, it means a lot. Okay, so you want to start off by creating a new document, making sure everything is like it is on the screen now for a YouTube thumbnail. And then once you've done that, we want to get some pictures off the internet. Now, as this is an Avengers themed thumbnail for the new game that's just been released, I want to try and get a good background for it. Now, I want a background that shows quite a lot of actual buildings, but it can have a person on there. As you can see, I've chose Iron Man for this one. And now I want to get Captain America. I could do a different character, but I've decided to go with Captain America as he is a main one. You want to make sure you type up render afterwards, so it's just Captain America, nothing else. I decided to go for this one as it's got a full body shot and it's decent in a frame, so it should be alright when I load it up into Premiere Pro. Now I want to get a shield to put on Captain America's back, but I want the inside, so again using render, I'll get this shield here. Now you want to place in the background to start off with, making sure that is resized very good. Making sure no white bits and like that is faced around. Okay, so once you've done that, what you want to go and do is you want to actually go and get rid of that background layer. Duplicate it twice. As you can see here, I do duplicate it twice. But we're doing this because we want to create Gaussian layers, they're called, and motion layers around this. So you want to go into your first duplicated layer, we want to click blur, and we're going to Gaussian blur this layer. We want to do it to around about 6 pixels, and you won't be able to see it until you get rid of the third layer. There you go. But once you've done that, you want to go into eraser, make it to around 400 pixels big, and the hardness 0. And then you want to just go around and erase the middle. We want to keep the edges like it's blurred. So going on to the third layer, this one's going to be the motion blur layer, and this is going to go in the middle. So you want to go on to filter, blur, motion blur. Now my angle's already set at around 30, I'll put it on 27, and the distance for the pixels is going to be 22. You can mess around with this and see what you want for yours, but on this one we're just going to go around, so the opposite to what the first duplicated layer was, and that'll give us the Gaussian and the motion. I'll try and change it, but I was happy with what I got. So you want to group this and just make sure it's all neat in your layer section, just so that's a bit easier to refer to when you want to do stuff at the end, as you can see later on. Now moving on to Captain America, I end up placing this into my document, going file place. I erase the bottom because I don't really need the bottom, I just need the top. Now as you can see, when I zoom in and resize it, it does look a bit blurry, not blurry like pixelated, but that won't really matter because it's a thumbnail. Thumbnails are very small on YouTube. So once I've positioned that, I want to find a picture of me, but I want to get a new picture of me. So what I do is I just go and take some photos. Here they are. I took some photos with the Canon 750D, which I'm recording this with, and I use the selection tool, the quick selection tool, to go around. Now I do want my neck, so I end up Control Alt X on this, and then get my neck in it. So yeah, here we go, Control X, and I want my neck in it just so I have a bit of room to erase with Captain America. Now I want to flip the layer by going File, Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, so it's on the same side as the Captain America face. Resizing this just to match the head of Captain America. It's just a precaution, but I do end up resizing them both anyway. Now lowering the opacity just to match it up and angle it correctly. And then I start erasing the neck by lowering the hardness, and then start erasing around the neck. Now, as you can see, it doesn't really match up a lot, so I do end up reversing that and then doing it a bit better here. I do end up lowering the opacity and hardening the eraser just to get a bit more of a stronger on the chin and then a hardness on the neck sort of area, as you can see there. Resizing the Captain America to make it a bit more bigger. Now onto the shield, what I end up doing here is I place the shield, and as you can see it's got a front facing shield and a back facing shield. I want to use the back facing shield, so I'm going to put it on my back, and you won't wear the shield front facing, so that won't make sense. So what I end up here is you want to make sure you click E on your layer when you first import it, and then click on it, and then it'll come up saying OK. You want to make sure you click OK. We get the circular mark tool and we end up going around it. There you go, and Control X, Control Shift V to get that on a separate layer. As you can see, the black lines are still there, so I do end up getting the circle mark tool out again. And you'll see I only really need the top half of the shield, so I end up just getting the top half, not all of the bottom, and that gets rid of the black. There still is a bit of black, so what I do is I zoom in with the eraser tool and just gently finish that off a bit, so it's just a bit more precise when it comes to the thumbnail. Now I want to put this on the top while I'm erasing, but then when I'm actually putting it on, I want to put it behind my layers, not at top of the background, behind the other layers. So as you can see, it looks good, but it doesn't look to my satisfaction. It looks like it's just stuck on there. So what we want to do actually is Control T to transform it, right click and click distort. Now on each of the points you want to distort it. I'll distort this a bit backwards and try and find the actual point where I want it to be. As you can see, I zoomed out and it does now look like it's on my back, which is fine by me. I think that looks very good and adds a good effect onto it. Now I want to add a blur to the actual background, so what I do, there is quicker ways to do this in Photoshop. I just decided to get a picture off the internet and do it this way. Now you want to make that the size that you want it, and then you want to go to this little thing here and click on the one that you want. It's not screen, I think it's overlay. Yeah, it's overlay, so you want to click overlay and it'll look like that. I don't really want it on top, I want it going behind my background, in between the Gaussian layer and the actual background, just to add that effect. But then I realised I don't really need this, as it's not something that the people are going to actually recognise, so I end up just deleting that. That is another step that you can use to thing, but if you want to use it you can, if you don't, you don't. So I end up going on YouTube, and I recommend you guys do this as well. Go on YouTube and look up other people's thumbnails that they've created. Now I see one good here. I see that most of these are walkthroughs for the game, and they say part 1, part 2, part 3. So for my text, that's what I am going to do. So I'll start off with the Avenger. I am using Mont Heavy Demo. This is what I use for most of my text in my videos and after hours videos. Links in the description. But I end up resizing that, tinting it a bit, and then I do end up referring back to the Marvel logo, as Avengers is Marvel, and I add an extra layer, paint over the top of the layer with a bright red. Now realise I say bright red, I paint over that, lower the opacity a bit so I can see that, and then I use the rectangular mark tool to go around it to create a box. That is done, there you go. And then I Control X, Control Shift V. That is such a good shortcut, guys. If you want to use that, Control X, Control Shift V. So here's the box. Now I delete that layer, make sure the layer's behind and my text is on top. Now I do realise that this is bright red, so what I end up doing is control clicking on the rasterized layer, and then I bring the colour down a bit and fill that in just so it looks a bit more natural, not bright. So that is referred to the Marvel. Underneath it I want to put walkthrough, as this is going to be a walkthrough thumbnail. So I put that and I line it up underneath the red box. Now this can be hard because it locks on, but if you use Control Alt it wouldn't lock on, so you can just do it like that. So now once we have the walkthrough part, as you can see there, I'm trying to line it up. So once we have the walkthrough part, what I'm going to want to do is I'm just going to join those together and move them about, see if they're going to fit. I do end up moving my Captain America and merging those to the side a bit. So here I'm creating the part 1. So I'm going to put that in the bottom right corner of the thumbnail, making it a bit bigger in the text, and not, this is important, not Control T in it, and the text, it makes it look a bit more clearer. You can see the difference between those two texts now. So what I do end up doing is I end up actually placing the background again on top. This is so I'll get a different section for the part 1, just so that stands out a bit more. I'll make sure that's lined up by making it visible and not visible. It looks decent enough for me, so I end up, there you go, rasterizing the layer again, lowering the opacity, getting the, I end up actually trying to do it with a pen, but then I realised that won't really look rectangular, so I go to the rectangle tool again. This is an amazing tool, guys, I recommend you use this. And I drag a box. With this I Control X, Control Shift V, delete the background layer, and now I have this one just for this. So what I do with this now is I actually click on it, filter, I pixelate, and I go for Mosaic. This is how people like blur things in films, or say in like YouTube videos if they don't want it seen and want it to be monetized. So I put it on 14 around, so I end up putting it on 3 squares. I should have put it on more just to make it a bit stand out, but I only really wanted it for the box. Now double clicking on that layer, I want to go down to outer glow or drop shadow you can use. I change the blend mode to normal, I change the colour to black, and I higher the opacity back up to 100. That's key, that you higher that opacity back up. Now once I've highlighted the opacity, I'll go on to spread and size. Now these adjust the thickness, the length of the blur. I want it just kind of so people can see it, but not that much detail that it's like popping out. It's the first thing people look at. We want to see people look at our face. Now I'm just distorting these layers just to go on top and behind the cap. And there you go guys, that's the thumbnail. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, subscribe and comment. Any thumbnail you want me to create, you comment it, I'll try and create it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.